I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make a strawberry cake, also known as a strawberry gateau, and this is what it looks like. This cake has 2 layers of a vanilla genoise. We're going to brush that with a lemon flavored sugar syrup, and then we're going to fill the cake with strawberry whipped cream and fresh strawberries, and then we're going to cover the whole cake with even more strawberry whipped cream. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. Now you will need 2 8-inch, which is 20 centimeter cake pans. And then you can either lightly butter your pans, or I'm just going to spray mine very lightly with a non-stick spray. I just want a very light coating, so I'm just going to take some of that off. And then I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper and line the bottom of the pan with that. And that'll make sure that our cake does not stick to the bottom of the pan. Okay. So now we're going to start by making our vanilla genoise. A genoise is a type of sponge cake, but it is a whole egg sponge cake. So you will need to have a saucepan of simmering water, because what we're going to do is, in a heat-proof bowl, I like to use stainless steel, I have put 6 large eggs, which is 300 grams, and I'm just going to break that up. And then I'm going to add 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated white sugar. And then what we're going to do is put this over the simmering water, and we're going to heat them just until they become warm. And so I'm just going to beat this up. And you need to whisk this or stir this constantly. We do not want to cook our eggs. So the reason we're doing this is to dissolve the sugar, and then that way, when it's nice and warm, it's going to, when we beat it, it's going to really reach its full volume. Because the only leavening that is put in this cake, there's no baking powder, no baking soda. It all comes from the air that's whipped into this mixture. Okay, so feels nice and warm. Take that off of the heat. Just keep stirring it. So now I'm going to be right back. I'm going to clean this up, and then we will whip up our egg mixture. Okay, so now if you have an electric stand mixer, you want to use your whisk attachment, or you could use a hand mixer for this. So I'm just going to wipe the bottom of your bowl. You don't want to get any water in there. And then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract, because it is a vanilla genoise. And then I'm going to beat this on high speed. What we want is it will triple in volume, it'll cool down, it'll be really thick and pale in color, and when you raise the beater, it will fall in a nice ribbon. But I'll show you that. This could take 3, maybe 5 minutes, so have patience. Okay, isn't that amazing what we started with and what we have now? So this is what you're looking for. As you can see, it's a wonderful pale color, it's thick, and then when I raise it, kind of goes and pools in, and then it will dissolve back in. So that's what you're looking for. So now I'm going to, you don't have to do this at home, but we're going to fold in flour, and I actually prefer to have a wide and pretty shallow bowl. I find it easier to fold the flour in than if I did it in my mixing bowl, but you can. If you don't have a big bowl, that's okay. And while my eggs and sugar were whipping up, what I did is I melted 2 tablespoons, 25 grams of butter, and what I want is it to be quite warm. So have that ready. And now you will need 1 2/3, 200 grams of cake flour. Cake flour is a low gluten flour. It does not contain baking powder or salt. It's just a low gluten flour, and it gives our cake a nice soft and tender crumb. Now I'm going to sift a little at a time, like maybe 1/3 of the flour over top. I'm just using a strainer. If you have a sifter, you could do that. And so now I'm using a spatula for this. And what we're going to do is fold it in, just big strokes. Now we are using, you know, a fair amount of flour. So this mixture is going to deflate some. So don't panic if it does. But what you want to make sure is that you fold all the flour. You don't want any streaks of flour, and then you'll get pockets of raw flour in your cake. So just make sure that you fold it in enough. I'm just going to do a little more. I do in about 3 to 4 additions. And our last one. Make sure you really cut through the whole amount to make sure, because you know, there is going to be pockets of flour. It looks like it's folded in. Scrape off my spatula. So now what I want to do, I want to lighten this butter, because if I try to put that hot melted butter in here, it's really going to deflate it a lot. So we're going to like temper our butter. So I'm just putting, you know, maybe a cup, 240 milliliters, and then just whisk it in. That'll lighten it up. And then it'll be easier to fold it in. Bit of a technique. Okay. And then I'm just going to pour that in. And we're almost done. And you want to make sure that the butter is completely folded in. You don't want or you'll get streaks, kind of wet streaks in your Genoise, which we don't want. Okay, so that looks good. So now what we're going to do is evenly divide our batter between our 2 cake pans, which I like to use a scale for this, 340 grams in each pan. Or you can eyeball it if you don't have a scale, but I do recommend a scale, as you know. Okay, looks good. And then it settles pretty flat itself, but you can use an offset spatula or the back of the spoon if it isn't completely smooth. So now, baking. Everyone's oven is a little different, but I find, say 16, I'll say 18, 19 minutes. And you want to make sure when you put your pans in the oven, there's a little room between the 2 pans so the air can circulate all the way around. So what you're looking for, they will rise, they'll turn a nice light golden brown. If you take your finger and press in the center, it will spring back. And you will just start to see the cakes shrink from the sides of the pan. And of course, a toothpick inserted into the center will come out clean. So about 16, 18, 19 minutes. Okay, so our Genoise are done. As you can see, I press it, springs back. They're just starting to pull away from the sides of the pan. And a toothpick inserted into the center did come out clean. So what you want to do is just put your cake pans on a wire rack. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to leave them. We want them to cool completely in their pan. So put that aside. And while they're cooling, we're going to make our sugar syrup, also known as a soaking syrup. So you will need a small saucepan. We brush first. A Genoise is a little drier in texture than most sponge cakes, so therefore it does benefit from a soaking syrup. So that, one, it adds moisture, which has the added benefit of our cake will store a few days longer than if we didn't, and two, it adds flavor. So what we want to do is small saucepan, a half a cup, 120 milliliters, 120 grams of just filtered water. And then I'm going to add a third of a cup, 65 grams of granulated white sugar. And then I'm just going to put that over, medium-high heat and bring it up to a boil. Just stir it every once in a while. We want that sugar to dissolve. So it's come up to a boil. We just want to make sure that all the sugar is dissolved. So just boil it until it's clear, which it is. So I'm just going to take it off the heat. I'm just going to put this in a little container here. So you can just use it just like this, plain. Or what I'm going to do, once this cools down to room temperature, I am going to stir in 2 tablespoons. I'm using a limoncello, orange flavored liqueur. You could use Grand Marnier, which is that's a lemon. Did I say orange? That's a lemon flavor. Or you could use Grand Marnier, which is an orange flavor liqueur. If you don't want to use alcohol, you could use like a fruit juice. You could use a little vanilla extract, a little almond extract. So what I'm going to do is just pour that in there. And then I want that to cool down. You can make this up to a couple weeks in advance. Just put it in your container, cover container, put it in your fridge, and you're ready to go. So next we're going to make our strawberry sauce. So now we're going to make our strawberry sauce. We are going to need a half a cup, 120 milliliters of strawberry sauce to flavor our whipped cream frosting. So you will need 4 ounces, 120 grams of either fresh, or I'm actually using frozen strawberries. Now these don't have any sugar added to them, and you do want to thaw them out. And then we're just going to put that right in there. Now I'm using a food processor. You could use a blender or even an immersion blender for this. And I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon, 15 grams of granulated white sugar. Really, this is up to you how much sugar, if you even want to use sugar. I mean, some strawberries are really sweet, so they probably don't even need any. I'll leave that up to you. So taste, and then you can know for sure. So I'm just going to blend this until the strawberries are nice and smooth and pureed. And that's it. Now you could make, sometimes what I do is make extra of the strawberry sauce and then I actually serve it with the cake. If people really like strawberry sauce, they can pour it over their slice. But today we'll just make what we need. And this is another part of our cake that we can make in advance. You could make your strawberry sauce probably up to a week before you assemble your cake, and then just put it into a covered container and place it into the refrigerator. So now I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to let my Genoise finish cooling, and then we will take them out of the pans. So our Genoise is now cooled down completely. So to take them out of the pan, first I'm taking an offset spatula or a knife and run it around the inside. And then just take a wire rack, flip it, lift it out, and Peel back the parchment paper and then flip it right side up. So now these cakes, you could assemble your strawberry cake right away, or what I like to do is to make up to this point one day and then finish it off the next day. So what you can do is just wrap these in plastic wrap and put them into the refrigerator overnight, or really these can be made and you can freeze them for up to a month in advance. So if you want to kind of break this cake up, you can do that. So next up is our strawberry whipped cream. So now we're going to make our whipped cream frosting. So the first thing you will need is that half a cup, 120 milliliters of strawberry sauce we made. And you want your strawberry sauce to be cold, because what we're going to do is we're going to make a stabilized whipped cream, which means we're going to add some gelatin to it. And that's going to make our whipped cream frosting a lot firmer, so it will hold better. Now, we're going to use unflavored gelatin. In the States, our unflavored gelatin comes in a small box with 4 of these little packets. Each packet is 1/4 ounce, 7 grams, and we're going to need 1 of this. So what we're going to do is just sprinkle our unflavored gelatin over the top of our cold strawberry sauce. I'm just going to mix that a bit. And then what we're going to do is let this sit for probably 5-10 minutes. And what's going to happen is all those little grains of gelatin are going to absorb the liquid, and so our strawberry sauce is going to get really soft and spongy, but that will take, maybe up to 10 minutes. So now our gelatin has become active. It's nice and spongy and soft. So what we need to do is heat the strawberry sauce to dissolve the gelatin. I'm going to do this just in a small saucepan on the stovetop, but you can do it in the microwave as well. It's just easier for you to see when I'm on the camera to do it here. So I'm just going to put this over medium heat and just heat it up until the gelatin dissolves and our sauce is nice and clear. Okay, so that looks good. I'm just going to take that off the heat. Turn that off. So what you want to do is just look at it and make sure that the sauce is nice and clear. So that looks good. So this is quite warm. So what I'm going to do is let this cool down to lukewarm, and then when we come back, we will whip our cream. So our strawberry sauce is now lukewarm, so we are ready to whip our cream. If you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your whisk attachment, or you could use a hand mixer, or you could do it by hand with a wire whisk. The first thing you will need is 2 cups of cold, heavy whipping cream, and that's cream with a 35 to 40% butterfat content, and what that means is when you whip it, it will hold stiff peaks. So just put that in there. And then I like to sweeten it with 1/4 cup, 30 grams of confectioner's sugar. You may know that as powdered or icing sugar. And then I like to add just a little bit of vanilla extract just for flavoring. So just 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of pure vanilla extract. Now I'm going to beat this on medium-high speed until soft peaks form, and then we'll add our strawberry sauce. You might want to start your mixer on low speed and then gradually increase it, otherwise the cream tends to be splattering everywhere. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. It's pretty soft still. And now we're going to add our strawberry sauce. I'm going to have my mixer on low speed and gradually add the sauce, and then I'm going to continue to whip it until it holds stiff peaks. Okay, that looks good. Doesn't take very long. Once you add that strawberry sauce, it goes pretty quickly. So it's nice thick. So what we're going to do is I have a piping bag fitted with just a plain tip. That's about a 1/2 inch, about 1 1/4 centimeters, because I find it easier. I mean, you don't need to pipe your cream on your cake, but I just find it makes it a little easier. So I'm just going to put my cream in here, and then I'm just going to clean up, and then when we come back, we are going to assemble our strawberry cake. We are now ready to assemble our strawberry cake. If you have a cake turntable, it's a nice handy thing to have, but you don't need one. So maybe just have your serving platter. I like to use these cake circles. They're just cardboard cake circles. I have a 9-inch, so you can either have an 8 or a 9-inch, 20 or 23 centimeter cake circle. And it makes it really easy to pick up your cake and move it around. You can just buy these cake decorating stores or online. So what I'm going to do is take one of my Genoise, and I'm going to put the top of the cake on the bottom. So I'm working with a flat surface. So just put that on there, and then on your cake turntable. So you will need, remember that soaking syrup or sugar syrup, you'll need that with that pastry brush, and then strawberries, so we need some strawberries. You will need 2 cups, 300 grams of fresh strawberries. Always wash your strawberries. And mine were really large. I mean, sometimes the small, large, different sizes. If they were small, you could maybe get away with just cutting them in half, but because mine were so large, I'd put them into bite-sized chunks. And I have my whipped cream. So the first thing we're going to do is take our sugar syrup and brush our cake with that. Remember that it's for a couple reasons. 1, it flavors our Genoise, and 2, it adds moisture. Okay. And then take your whipped cream, and then we're just going to spread a thin layer. So if you're not comfortable with a piping bag, then just take a little bit and just spread it on there. This is a coating. And then back of a spoon, I have an offset spatula, a small one, or you could use a large one. All your tools ready. When you do this, you want to have everything all set up. Makes it much easier. Now you don't have to worry about whether your frosting goes over the sides, because we will fix that up. So you just want a nice, just a thin layer. Okay. And then take your piping bag. We're going to try to make like a border on the outside and put the strawberries in the center. So that's why I like a piping bag for this. So start on the outside and just pipe a border. And then pipe another one on top. Kind of will hold our strawberries in. Okay. If you're not really good at piping, do not worry with this cake. And then just take your strawberries and try to fill in the whole area. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So then I'm going to take some cream and just spread it over the top, and that the cream will go down and fill in any spaces there are. Just want to thin. Touch more. Like so. you can kind of use the cream to level off your cake. It looks pretty good. So, get that. So again, we're going to brush, because we're going to take the top of the cake and put it on top here. So we'll brush that with some of our sugar syrup. And if I can get this right, put it on top, even, although we can, and just gently press down. And again, we're gonna, now the amount of sugar syrup your cake will absorb will depend on how fresh it is. If you made the cakes and then assembled this right away, you know, it won't absorb as much of the sugar syrup than, say, if you made the cake a day or two beforehand. So you may have some left over. Looks good. Just wipe my hands. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go. Now there is some gaps, and what I'll probably end up doing is having to put some more frosting in there, but right now I'm just going to run my spatula to see where I'm at. Okay. And then take our whipped cream, we're going to pipe it around the top. And then the sides. Keep a little extra just in case we need it. I'm just going to use my larger spatula here. Spread it out. Just love the little flecks of the strawberry sauce. And it's kind of a very pale pink. I like that. Just spread it out on the sides. Okay. So now I like to use a flat edge to do my sides, and just see if I just run it along and smooth those sides out. Really, you can make this smooth. You can make it, you know, just with your spatula. But we're going to kind of smooth it out. I'm going to take a little off to kind of make it more like a naked cake, which means you can kind of see the cake through the frosting. How much you want to see the cake is, you know, you can take off as much frosting as you want. Actually, I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. If you don't have one of these scrapers, they're really handy. And then I'm just gonna put you might as well, why waste the frosting, right? So I'm gonna put it on the top, have a nice thick layer on the top. And then what we're gonna do, the gelatin, you wanna work with your frosting immediately, because that gelatin hasn't really started to firm up our frosting, the whipped cream, very much. But now what we're going to do is put this cake into the refrigerator And the gelatin's gonna activate and firm up our whipped cream. So you wanna have it in the refrigerator, 3-4 hours, just like when you make like jelly or something, you need to refrigerate it. Now the top, I'm gonna leave that up to you. If you want it smooth, you can just, like so. I'm happy with that. I like it just like that. So I'm going to put it into the refrigerator. Just take your spatula and you can just clean up I don't know whether you can see, I'm just running this along the bottom to clean up my cake circle. And then I'm going to put it into the refrigerator, like I said, 3-4 hours. And then when we come back, we will try a piece. We're now ready to cut our cake. I just decorated this very simply with just one strawberry. And then just take your sharp knife, straight through. And then I like to just wipe my knife off in between cuts. Check that. Okay. Then I'm just using a flat edge. And there we have it. Doesn't that look gorgeous? Because we let it chill, the whipped cream frosting set up. It's not a really firm, it's kind of medium firm texture to it, but oh, I think that's such a pretty looking cake. So let's try some. If you had a little extra strawberry sauce, you could serve it with the cake. I have some strawberry there. Excellent flavor combination. A Genoise has a really nice tender crumb, and then when you put that soaking syrup on it, it just flavors it really wonderfully. And then of course you've got the fresh strawberries in the center, and then the whipped cream. You know, I put in not a lot of strawberry sauce, just enough to give it just a hint of strawberry flavor. You can cover and store this, 3-4 days. I did try to freeze it. It freezes very well, but you will notice that the strawberries will get a little soft and mushy from being frozen. So, keep that in mind. So try this one. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.